Okay, so we talked about authentication and consideration. Now we're talking about infrastructure. So these are things that are in the infrastructure, or how you deploy or your code is structured. So one thing is security misconfiguration. And if you go back to our code, this is HTTP, good old HTTP, plain text HTTP. It's okay for development, but the Go web server supports running HTTPS, so listen and serve, and there's also listen and serve TLS, and you give it certificates, and you can run, and you can generate your own for the development, or you can use Let's Encrypt. So listen and serve TLS. This is the one that you can give. And in the X package, so the Golang.x is a set of libraries that the Go team and other developers maintain, which I would call them semi-official, right? They get support, and they're usually good libraries, but they're not in the standard library, and most of them are not going to come into the standard library. So you can use that to renew your certificate. You have the Caddy web server that also does automatically renew your certificates. And certificates, they are free, really, they don't cost money. There's no good reason not to use them. So your traffic is encrypted, and it's good. And it's also inside the company. Again, what goes outside is inside. Using components with known vulnerabilities. Okay, so we saw these lists of all the CVEs and all the vulnerabilities. And when we talk about this, we talk about basically the module or the dependency management. One thing is the Go version, right? So make sure that you're always running the latest and greatest. This is easy to check, right? You run Go version, you see 1.16.4. This is, I think, the latest one, right? I don't think 1.6.15. But and this is talking about the Go version, but we also have the third-party dependencies. And third-party dependencies are a big security risk. We now have Go models to use them. I don't know if you're familiar with our software dependency problem by Russ Cox, which states all the problems we have with software dependencies. This is an awesome article. I highly recommend that you read it. And when you read it, you want to stop using dependencies. Right? Dependencies carry a lot of risk. The risk is one that someone bad is maintaining them. Right? Most of the open source projects that you're going to use have 1 or 2 developers. That's the statistics. And a lot of time it happens, or several times it happened, that one maintainer said, you know, enough. I know it for myself. I have several projects that I either handed off or just deprecated, said abandoned. I'm not doing them anymore. But in some cases, people find a successor and they pass them on. And in most cases, this successor is also a good person, but in some time they're not so good. And I think in the Python community, there was one that just added some code to stealing Bitcoin wallets from your computer on one of these libraries. So there are security risks, and nobody is actually reading the whole source code of every dependencies that you read. Right? So I'm reading here. I'm using here Gorilla MOOCs, SQLite, and Testify. I don't think I briefly read some of the code, but not in depth, and not look at them in security eyes. And some companies, you need to get the operation team blessing on specific packages and specific version before you do that. And the second problem, which is not security related, but it's a problem when the code goes bad, either because someone broke an API, or because they decided to remove their package from GitHub and then you can't build anymore, and many other things in between. So ideally, the ideal Go mode is without any requirements. and I prefer to suffer without using external libraries if I can stay the standard library. So I'm using the standard HTTP server as much as I can. And here I'm adding Gorilla as an example. There's no really, in this code, there's no good reason to use it. I'm using SQLite because that's required. I need to use an SQL database and Testify for testing, which is a less of a risk, but still it can be a risk. One of the things that I see when I go to consult with companies, coming to a small startup, they're like 3 months in, and their Go mode has like 50 dependencies. And like, okay, I understand it's making you more productive, but are you aware of the risk behind it? And what you should work is you should work with a system like Go.mod. Right now, this is the best way from the Go team to work with dependencies, which has security in mind. So you have to write a version here. You can't just say Gorilla Mux and get the latest and greatest. You can say master branch, but don't do that. But you should be latest and greatest. The Go.sum also keep, as you see, a signature of the packages to make sure that there are no known man-in-the-middle attacks for that. And you can, if you want to increase security, you can put your own system for serving packages. There are solution open source or from vendors to host your like a proxy of packages. So you work with them. You can do vendoring, which is downloading the packages and put them in a vendor directory, and then it's in the directory. You have full control of what's going on there. There are many solutions if you want to go even more into being paranoid, which security mindset, right? So you need to think about it. You can also use a replace directive in the Go mode. This is another thing that you can use to work with dependencies locally. There are many ways to make sure, but you need to be really on top of your dependencies and not just say, okay, this looks cool, I'm going to use that. No, there are issues, and a lot of time security will come from third-party packages. Where are we? Where is my presentation? Oh, here it is. Apart from that, there are tools, like if you're hosting code on GitHub, there's Dependabot. And Dependabot is going to, if it's enabled, it's going to tell you, look, hey, there's a security vulnerability in this package that you're using, and it will automatically create a merge request for you so you can merge it up. So if you can do that, enable that, there are other tools that you can run, both commercial and open source, that look at security issues and risk and might do something like what GitHub's Dependabot is doing to do it. And I think other companies are offering a similar solution for that as well. But really, these dependencies, they're an issue. There are people that are doing also putting malicious packages with slightly like 1 or 2 letter deviation from the real package, and people mistakenly do that as well. This is dependent. Okay. Insufficient logging and monitoring. So up till now, we talked about preventing things. But one of the things we need to know is, did something bad happen? Right? And to know if something bad happened, we need to have a logging and monitoring. Right? These are our eyes to production. And monitoring, and it's not just monitoring, it's monitoring and alerting today, because monitoring by itself, most companies now, they have more than 1,000 metrics that they collect from a lot of servers, and nobody can sit 24/7 in front of the dashboards and see, oh, something fishy is right over there. So you need some kind of alerting, and now we got even AI goes to alerting, trying to figure out what is a good metric or not, with novelty detection or outlier detection, and several other things that you can do. But you need these eyes, because if your customer is the one that's reporting you a security violation, this is not good. This is really bad. So you need to have that. Logging is for the forensics. So you need to make sure that you have enough information to know what is going on. And this, when you talk about logging and monitoring, these two should be also in the conversation. I'm adding a feature to the code. Okay, how can I monitor if something bad goes on, not just in the code, but if someone is trying to do a DDoS attack, or do we see suddenly messages that are very, very big and other things. And also in the logging, how can I log this information that I know what's coming up? Okay, and we have a lot of tools for that in the Go ecosystem. Inside the standard library, there's the log package. Most of the people find it too simple, and they go to tools that provide structured logging with levels like ZAP and Logboost and many, many other ZeroLog and several other solutions. This is also something that you should keep your eye on. And when we talk about metrics, again, we have the built-in EXP var, and doing metrics with EXP var is super simple, right? You just import it, and it opens a /debug/vars, and now you have things. And there are systems like Prometheus and Influx and all the rest that are gathering metrics and doing other things.